weirdo responsible for continuing to bring up betting odds on mythical events that not only are not scheduled to happen, haven't even been hinted are going to happen, and that we all know full well are never going to happen? It would seem to me it's probably the same people that every Tuesday by 8 a.m. submit the new MMA rankings. Something completely arbitrary by somebody who's hiding in a room, who's just throwing numbers out to give people like me something to talk about. Gable Stevens, they just did rankings. Or I apologize, odds. How would he do with Francis? How would he do? What would it be against Surreal? What would it be against John Jones? What would it be against Derek Lewis? Just by example. But now we're seeing odds came out as recently as an hour ago about Conor McGregor versus Kamaru Usman. Now, of course, that is based on a simple interview that Conor did yesterday in the form of a troll saying he's moving up to 170 pounds, and Usman quickly took the bait, told him all the reasons he couldn't come up, but of course it was me. Yeah, please come up here. Red Panty Night's still a very real thing. I'm not afraid to put a pair on. And now there's odds for it. And I'm just wondering who does it and why. And what happens if you come out with an odd, but there's no window to cash the ticket at? Do you see where it's not really an odd then? Somebody in Vegas or somebody online comes out and tells you what the odds are, but they don't allow you to place a bet? And what would they do if they did take your money for the bet? Do I have a prop bet where I can bet that this is never going to happen in the first place? Let me guess. No, because it's not going to happen. You know, there was a great one. Who was it? Poker Stars? What were they called? Bet poker, play poker online. They would always take a prop bet. Now, you could only bet up to $500. They put a lot of limits on their bets, but they would always do a prop bet that they would always screw up. Every single time there was a card, you were going to make money as long as you followed this. The prop bet would always talk about for a fight, and then you get to choose. Is it going to go under 3 rounds or over 3 rounds? It was the same bet every single time. So Tim Sylvia, who was the champion of the world, lost the championship. And most of Tim's fights were for the belt, but not all of them. Tim had lost a championship. He returns to one of his few non-title fights. So the bookmakers over there don't realize it's not a championship fight. They don't realize that it isn't possible to go into rounds 4 and 5, but they took the prop bet action anyway. So all you had to do was bet on as many different counts as you had time to sign up for. Get your $500 into the right place on time. You were guaranteed to win, because they were taking action on was it going to go to rounds 4 or 5, of which it wasn't even scheduled for. Are you with me? They do that every week. Every single week, there would be some bet that was wrong. There would be some bet that you could go against, but it wasn't possible in the first place. As silly as are these guys going to fight in a cage or in a ring? And when you find out the organization putting it on is the UFC, which only does fights in cage, I mean, right? But do you see where there's no way you could go wrong? And I've always wondered, was that a glitch? Was that an error in the system? Was that a marketing ploy? Because they did pay. And you would literally set up as absolute many different counts as you can, get them funded, and get $500 in every single direction. And all you had to do was look for the next week to see which one they screwed up. And I always wondered, was that like a back door? And the guy told his own buddies that? Or that was like a way for his mother to get in and skin some $500? Like, there was nobody actually that stupid. But whoever he turned the numbers into that got to actually take the action was that stupid or put that kind of trust. It was just one of these things. And I'm just wondering, when you have these ridiculous bets that don't exist in the first place, who is that for? But I got to tie it into the rankings. Who are the rankings for? It was never meant to be for the fighters. The fighters have corrupted and ruined the entire ranking system. It was for guys like me to have a jumping off point. So now I'm seeing action and odds on fights that don't exist and never will. And I see them nonstop. So the question starts to be, oh, and by the way, they look right. They look the way a real odd would be. But odds makers get paid to do that. They get paid by the house that then carries those odds and takes action on it, and in which case, that's not happening here. So it appears that it's just another talking point. And I'm sure the fighters will sink their teeth into it, find a way to corrupt this the same way as they ruined rankings for everybody else. And here's Chael. I'll recap it all.